the weather forecast with C3 Production.
Happy new month, beautiful people. It's a pleasure to have you for the weather forecast this morning. The same weather condition will prevail until the afternoon. We'll be having showers across the national territory. We'll be having a maximum temperature of 41 degrees, that is in the far north region of the country, 31 degrees expected in the east region, 29 degrees in part of the south region, 28 degrees in the west and the center region, and 26 degrees expected in the northwest region. For details, ladies and gentlemen, let's go first to the beautiful southwest region where light showers are expected this morning. The sun will be covered. The same situation will prevail until the afternoon. As you can see, we'll be having a maximum temperature of 30 degrees. Next, let's go now to the littoral region where precipitation are expected this morning. The same weather condition will prevail until the afternoon. Do not forget to have your umbrellas and to cover yourselves. Let's end now, ladies and gentlemen, with the north region where precipitation are expected this morning in Poli and Choleri. The rest will only have the sun covered, but the situation will prevail until Garoua, where showers will be expected as well. Ladies and gentlemen, with such weather condition, you can take care of your growing needs. Have a good day. God bless you.
That was the weather forecast with C3 Production.
Le ministre de l'Emploi et de la Formation professionnelle procède ce mardi 1er juin au lancement officiel du programme Archipelago dans la salle de conférence de la délégation de la Chambre de commerce pour le centre. Les travaux se tiennent à Yaoundé à partir de 10 heures précises. Ce programme vise à développer et à implémenter des enseignements permettant aux jeunes de renforcer la formation professionnelle en adéquation avec l'emploi dans les secteurs porteurs, y compris la transformation agroalimentaire, la mécanique automobile et l'entrepreneuriat. Toujours ce mardi, conseil de direction des écoles de formation des personnels infirmiers, sages-femmes et médico-sanitaires. Les travaux se tiennent sous la coordination du ministre de la Santé publique, le docteur Manaouda Malachi, au Palais des Congrès de Yaoundé dès 8 heures précises. Troisième session d'homologation des pesticides par la Commission sous-régionale d'Afrique centrale ce 1er juin 2021 par visioconférence à Yaoundé. Et en société, soutenance de doctorat PhD ce mardi à l'enceinte de l'Université de Yaoundé 1. Les travaux portent sur le thème « L'altération du statut des œuvres d'art au Cameroun » sous l'administration coloniale allemande de 1884 à 1916. L'objectif étant d'informer l'opinion sur l'existence des quantités importantes d'objets d'art au Cameroun acquis pendant la colonisation allemande et conservés jusqu'aujourd'hui dans différents musées.
Salut à tous, vous faites bien d'être des nôtres, soyez les bienvenus à TABLOïDS, j'espère en tout cas que vous allez bien. Mardi 1er juin 2021, dans l'actualité donc ce mardi, d'abord l'économie quotidienne et ce verre à moitié vide. Du côté de la Kamwata, l'économie, le quotidien nous fait donc la synthèse d'entreprise et l'État qui veut évaluer les performances de la Kamwata. La procédure de recrutement du consultant devant faire ce travail est en cours, révèle l'économie quotidienne. Dans ce dossier, le journal indique à la page 3 les problèmes auxquels la structure Camwater fait face. Et cette bonne nouvelle, toujours dans l'économie quotidienne, à la page 5, bonne nouvelle donc pour les usagers, le ministère des Forêts et de la Faune interdit désormais la présence de ces éléments sur les points de contrôle routier. Le MINFOF veut par cette décision éviter le rançonnement des usagers. Camer Presse à présent pour le quotidien. Camer Presse de ce mardi, presque donc dans la même veine. Camer Presse précise que du côté de la fiscalité, ça bouge aux impôts. Comment? Eh bien, dans une circulaire signée Le 26 mai dernier, le directeur général des impôts annule la délivrance des attestations de localisation souvent exigées dans le dossier fiscal et la direction générale a entamé, nous dit le journal, la vulgarisation des téléprocédures au niveau local. Toujours dans les colonnes de Camer Express de ce mardi, retrouvez le nouvel accord scellé entre le Cameroun et le FMI. Camer Presse publie ce matin le communiqué irrelatif signé jeudi dernier. Dans ce communiqué, le Fonds monétaire international explique les modalités qui contribueront à atténuer les risques éventuels. Et c'est peut-être pas que c'est peut-être, mais et c'est lui Paul Motazé, qui a piloté d'ailleurs ce dossier, raison pour laquelle peut-être midi libre à présent, midi libre donc de ce mardi, l'hebdomadaire presque sur lui, prend sur lui la responsabilité de parler de la performance exceptionnelle du MINFI. Midi libre qualifie lui Paul Motazé de baobab de la finance au Cameroun. En poste aux finances depuis mars 2018, ce technocrate de classe exceptionnelle pour Midi Libre a fait bouger les lignes les plus sinueuses, imposer les innovations les plus indicibles et produit des résultats les plus étonnants. La suite de son portrait à lire à la page 6 de Midi Libre. Terre promise maintenant, Terre promise, l'hebdomadaire, donc un kiosque dès ce mardi, invite à lire jusqu'au 7 juin prochain un dossier sur les fonctionnaires fictifs. Et si le verre était dans le fruit, nous dit Marc Ambuy. Malgré les remarquables efforts des autorités, le phénomène persiste, preuve que des complicités existe et plombe le système de l'intérieur. Parole est donnée au professeur Viviane Ondoa-Biolé, experte en management. T'es promise toujours cette semaine, Babadjou Bamenda, comment sortir du bourbier. L'hebdomadaire rassure que les travaux abandonnés devraient reprendre dès le mois de juillet prochain. À lire donc à la page 9. On reste sur le même sujet avec The Guardian Post cette fois-ci. The Guardian Post, Fundi shames government over deplorable Bamenda Babadjou Road. Le quotidien revient ce matin sur la journée morte du lundi imposée par les séparatistes et excédée, la population proteste. The Guardian Post est bien sûr en kiosque ce mardi. Et toujours sur la crise anglophone, c'est le quotidien Émergence maintenant. On va dans le quotidien Émergence pour constater Ghost Town continue paralyzing the economy of the Northwest and Southwest region. Les conséquences donc économiques de ces villes mortes dans ces deux régions sont détaillées dans les colonnes d'émergence à la page 5. Le quotidien nous amène aussi du côté de Batouri ce matin où 7 personnes ont été ensevelies après un éboulement. Hier était journée mondiale de lutte contre le tabagisme. Émergence choisit aussi de nous édifier sur le phénomène chicha. Et à Éco-Santé d'être plus précis sur la question en ce qui concerne le tabagisme. Éco-Santé nous dit qu'au Cameroun, près de 3000 décès sont enregistrés par an. Le chiffre fait froid dans le dos, d'autant plus que 36% des Camerounais sont des fumeurs passifs et passent de vie à trépas au même titre que les fumeurs actifs. Que fait donc le Comité national de lutte contre la drogue? Le docteur Basile Yana Ndana répond. Il est le secrétaire permanent du CNLD, entendez, Comité national de lutte contre la drogue. Une volonté de faire pour Cameroun Tribune. Une volonté de faire donc pour Cameroun Tribune ce matin qui revient sur la relance des projets miniers Cameroun-Congo. Le président Paul Biya a reçu hier l'envoyé spécial du président Denis Sassou Nguesso, Pierre Oba, le ministre congolais des industries minières et de la géologie. Le journal Le Quotidien aussi, dans la même veine ce matin, reste donc sur ces relations aussi solides que le fer entre le Cameroun et le Congo. De Mbalam à Nabeba, Yaoundé et Brazzaville sont déterminés, nous dit Le Quotidien, à sortir le fer de cette zone de l'enfer du partenariat australien qui le maintient en hibernation depuis donc une dizaine d'années. Et nous voici dans le feuilleton Covid Gate. On retrouve d'abord New Star ce matin, enquête Covid-19. Ça dit au secours des ministres Covidés et Covidés entre guillemets, bien évidemment. L'hebdomadaire revient sur le communiqué signé en fin de semaine dernière par le ministre de la Communication. Mutation pour sa part sur la gestion des fonds du Covid-19 ce matin dans le chloroquine gate. Georges-Alain Boyomo fait des révélations sur la production locale avortée de ce médicament par l'Institut de recherche médicale. Et donc, le directeur général est attendu, selon le quotidien Mutation, le directeur général est donc attendu au tribunal criminel spécial. À lire, page 5. Crayon en main ce matin, on va retrouver à présent le quotidien Ligne d'horizon que ce matin de Valentin Siméon Zinga nous revient donc sur les rapports entre journalistes et hommes politiques, liaison dangereuse. Quel est le type de relation qu'entretiennent ces deux partis au Cameroun? Comment ces rapports rejaillissent-ils, autant pour moi, sur l'épanouissement ou la restriction de la liberté de la presse? Les professeurs Charles Boyomo à Sala, Charlie Gabriel Mbok, Thomas Atenga, Georges Madiba, Armand Leka Essomba et le directeur de publication du quotidien Le Jour, Aman Mana, répondent à Ligne d'horizon ce mardi. Et enfin, pour le messager qui s'intéresse aujourd'hui aux huissiers de justice stagiaire, l'insoutenable injustice, titre donc le messager. Le messager donc dans ses colonnes se présente ce jour comme porte-parole de ces huissiers de justice stagiaires. Bercés par des paroles pompeuses, ils attendent désespérément du ministère du Garde des Sceaux l'organisation de l'examen de fin de stage, dont en tout cas le dernier remonte il y a 21 ans. Lecture, page 6. Voilà, c'est donc par cette une de la revue de Messager que nous mettons un terme à votre tabloïd de ce mardi 1er juin 2021. En espérant avoir pu stimuler en vous l'envie de lire, rendez-vous dans les kiosques. Entre-temps, nous vous souhaitons une bonne lecture, bon mardi et à demain, mercredi. C'était Tabloïd.
La revue de presse dans la même lancée. Tout à l'heure, Rita Macan sera là pour relayer les informations de nos quotidiens ce matin. Mais avant, on précise qu'au ministère des Affaires sociales, il y aura tout à l'heure le lancement des activités marquant la célébration de la journée de l'enfant africain. On aura l'occasion d'en parler. On va parler évidemment tout au long de cette semaine des problèmes des enfants, les problèmes auxquels ils sont confrontés, le travail forcé, mariage forcé même, parce que figurez-vous que cela existe encore dans certaines parties des pays africains, y compris le Cameroun. Et on revient sur la célébration de la journée mondiale de lutte contre le tabac. C'était hier. On a compris que 36 000 Camerounais sont des fumeurs passifs, malheureusement. Cela a un impact sur leur santé. La campagne de sensibilisation qui a démarré hier va se poursuivre sur l'ensemble du triangle national. Et c'est le moment de parler de l'économie. Beatrice Ngoum nous a rejoint dans ce studio pour faire le point de l'actualité économique dans Cameroun Delight. Bonjour Beatrice.
Good morning, Cathy.
How are you this morning?
I'm fine.
Dans un instant, on revient à vous pour parler de l'actualité économique. Alors, Beatrice, on va commencer par l'actualité courante. Qu'est-ce qu'il faut savoir?
Well, Cathy, we open our economic package this morning with what is making news in that sector to talk about the audience that the Minister of Finance will be granting to the U.S. ambassador to Cameroon. They will certainly talk about what they can do to boost Cameroon's economy, especially in this COVID period. And we are also going to talk about the workshop that is being organized by the Ministry of Public Works to discuss or brainstorm on how to sustain earth roads in Cameroon. And lastly, in another economic news, there is the 31st session of the commission that is charged with homologating prices on pesticides that is going to be holding its 31st session today. That will be it for our economic news for the day.
Très bien, on va parler également de cette rencontre sur l'ordonnance présidentielle en rapport avec le FMI.
Yes, to say that the President of the Republic lately signed an ordinance. You are certainly aware he was amending Section 49 of the finance law. And according to that ordinance, concerning the finance law in Cameroon, there is an increase in the threshold for non-concessional loans and even for concessional loans. And Clarice Aretakang will tell us more or will explain to us better what that law entails, that amendment on the finance law entails.
Contracting a debt to pay off another of the same value, in this case the Eurobond, which Cameroon issued in 2015, securing 450 billion CFA francs to service part or all of an old loan worth the same amount. A strategic management of the debt is the objective of the Presidential Ordinance amending Section 49 of the 2021 Finance Law. The threshold for non-concessional loans has risen to 750 billion CFA francs, while the state is henceforth authorized to negotiate concessional loans for up to 350 billion CFA francs.
The state will be able to extend the reimbursement of the previous Eurobonds, but especially because the interest rates are more favorable now than they were when issued in 2015. Investors need guarantees that they will be repaid.
Des engagements forts de l'État du Cameroun.
Fears of an additional debt burden have been allayed at a time the state is preparing to go for another Eurobond.
On emprunte.
The state is just borrowing from investors to repay a loan from 2015, so it is not an additional debt. With 450 billion CFA francs, investors of 2015 will be reimbursed, while those of 2021 will be paid later.
Later, and giving the state room to honor commitments made with local and foreign investors.
Well, Cathy, we'll continue our economic page to talk about the IMF support program for Cameroon, this new IMF support program for Cameroon, which has come under a review. The first one has come under review and the IMF is satisfied.
Il faut dire qu'il y avait quand même beaucoup d'inquiétudes quant à la réaction du Fonds monétaire international en ce qui concerne la gestion des fonds Covid en Afrique en général.
You are right, but from what the report tells us, they are satisfied as far as Cameroon's own response to COVID-19 plan is concerned. They are saying that the report, what they have gathered on Cameroon so far is satisfactory, and because it is satisfactory, because their review is positive, they are thinking of helping Cameroon again or assisting Cameroon again with another support, and that support is going to last for about 36 months. And Clarissa Rikitakan once more will be telling us about what does that positive, what is it that made them think that Cameroon is eligible or Cameroon can benefit from that new IMF support program.
The IMF-supported program is grounded on Cameroon's development roadmap for the next 10 years, the SND 30. Focus will be on efforts made to promote good governance, transparency, and the fight against corruption. These, in turn, will have 4 pillars to build on. They include mitigating the consequences of COVID-19, accelerating fiscal reforms, and strengthening debt sustainability. An assessment of the country's high risk of debt distress by the institution is looking at the need to limit non-concessional borrowing and enforce public debt management. These remain crucial. Loans with more generous interest rates and longer grace periods will be granted only for essential development projects for which concessional financing is unavailable. Interest will also be in stimulating private sector investment by making the business climate more competitive, but equally addressing risks associated with state-run entities. Strategies put in place to manage the pandemic and keep economic activity going were acknowledged. This is the basis on which the staff-level agreement was reached for a new program under the Extended Credit Facility and Extended Fund Facility. Post-COVID-19 recovery, macroeconomic robustness, and an ambitious structural reform agenda were scrutinized, according to the statement issued by the IMF mission to Cameroon.
Well, Katia, I'll be taking you now to the Northwest region to talk about the handicraft sector.
Apparemment, ça se passe plutôt bien de ce côté. Enfin, les choses reprennent progressivement.
Exactly, Katia. You know that with COVID-19, a lot of sectors were affected, and that sector in that part of the country, the handicraft sector, was also affected. But as it stands now, things are picking up steam in that sector, and a lot of people have started visiting the museums that are in that part of the country again. Not only because of the economic crisis or the socio-political crisis there, but that sector was as well affected by the COVID crisis. But for now, there is good news because they are talking of people beginning to come back into the region to visit those museums that are part of the culture of those people, because in those museums you will find all of Cameroon represented. And Mercy Kusi visited one of such museums in the Northwest region, and this is what she gathered.
At the Bamenda Handicraft Center, the cultural story of the Northwest is beautifully told on works of clay, wood and fiber, but its art can go unvisited for days.
In a day we could make 150,000, but within the time of the crisis, we're not able to sell up to 50,000 francs.
Marketing the Northwest traditional handicrafts online was a perfect idea until COVID-19 struck.
Visitors that were expecting to visit the Northwest, visit the handicraft centers, they have not been able to come because when you hear the story in the Northwest, no tourists leave other regions to come here or other countries to come to the Northwest region. And those are our major buyers. Through the online business today, we have been trying to reach our customers abroad. They would not necessarily come here, but it has not been easy too with the COVID-19.
On the flip side, the Northwest traditional regalia known as toga continues to stand out, with young designers earning a living from its sales.
Wow, Kati, you got from that report, the sector is beginning to attract back tourists into that part of the country. We are going to be talking about our figure of the day, which is 500 billion CFA francs.
Alors, qu'est-ce que ce chiffre représente?
That is the money that those who are in the tobacco sector say some enterprises in Cameroon do owe them. So they are complaining that enterprises in Cameroon owe them 500 billion CFA francs. Farmers in the tobacco sector.
Voilà, on a compris également hier que les Camerounais investissent tellement d'argent dans la consommation du tabac, mais il faut modérer. Beatrice Goum, merci d'avoir été avec nous. On se donne rendez-vous mardi prochain.
Hopefully, I'll be there, Cathy.
Voilà, c'est donc la page écho de cette édition qui nous a permis de faire le tour de l'actualité économique. On reviendra évidemment sur certains sujets plus amplement à partir de 7h avec le journal en anglais présenté par Gilbert Ongeni-Ania. Et à 8h, Francky Vina sera là pour le journal en français pour plus de précision. Dans un instant, Rita Macan sera là pour la revue de presse en anglais après cette petite pause.
7 persons have died following a landslide that occurred in a mining site in the locality of Kembele in Baturi subdivision of the East region. Last weekend's accident occurred barely 2 weeks after a similar incident in the same locality which claimed the lives of over 20 artisanal miners. Efforts are underway in the locality of Kembele to recover the corpses of those buried in the slide. The 3rd International Archive Week shall be celebrated in Cameroon from June 7 to 11, 2021 under the theme Empowering Cameroon's Archives in a Period of Crisis for Good Governance. The information is contained in a press release made public by the Minister of Arts and Culture, Bidumpat. Preparations are gearing up ahead of the Women's Handball Africa Cup of Nations billed for the 8th to the 18th of June 2021 in Cameroon. This is at the Yaoundé Multipurpose Sports Complex where the 23 players of Coach Serge Gekobo training twice daily for the competition that will see the participation of 12 teams. Mali has been suspended from ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States, in response to last week's military coup, the second in 9 months. ECOWAS leaders meeting in Accra, Ghana, have asked for the appointment of an inclusive government that will stick to a timetable for a return to democracy that may stop short of imposing French sanctions.
Voilà, c'était les Top Stories. Vous venez également de suivre Politics, présenté par Séverin Aligambélé, qui parlait de l'habitat décent social à Nangaïboko, conformément aux dispositions du Code général des collectivités territoriales décentralisées. À la suite de Baganté, Garoua, la commune de Nangaïboko, dans la région du centre, va donc s'adjoindre les services de la Société immobilière du Cameroun pour la construction de 200 logements sociaux. C'est donc un exemple de partenariat institutionnel pour sortir de la crise de logement. Merci une fois de plus à Séverin Aligambélé qu'on va retrouver demain dans Politics. Et maintenant, on va revenir sur l'actualité des journaux. Rita Macan est avec nous. Bonjour Rita.
Good morning Cathy.
Alors les journaux se sont intéressés ce matin à ce ras-le-bol des populations de Bamenda dans la région du Nord-Ouest qui s'insurgent finalement contre le Ghost Town.
Effectively, Cathy, the Guardian Post is today praising the courage of the populations of the Northwest region, in particular Bamenda, who took the streets of Bamenda to actually protest what they call atrocities allegedly committed by separatist fighters in the Northwest region, and precisely in Bamenda, especially on Monday. You know, Cathy, Mondays Mondays have been decreed as ghost towns, and the populations actually went down the street and said, no, enough is enough.
En tout cas, d'autres informations contenues dans les journaux, c'est dans un instant.
Tuesday, June 1, 2021. Hello, dear viewers. Welcome to this other edition of Tabloids, the first of the month of June on CRTV and CRTV News. On to stories that have been highlighted in the local dailies. Cameroon Tribune got interest today on the relaunch of mining projects between Cameroon and Congo, of which is described as an iron wheel. The resumption of the ambitious joint project for the exploitation of iron in Balam, Cameroon, and Nebaba, Congo was at the center of yesterday's audience granted by the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, to the Minister of State, Minister of Mining and Industries and Geology of the Republic of Congo, Pierre Oba, Special Envoy of President Denis Sassou Nguesso. Let's stay with Cameroon Tribune daily news paper to talk about the Lake Chad Basin, where stakeholders are charting peace avenues. According to the Bilingual News Daily, the second Regional Reflection Forum on Demobilization, Reintegration and Reconciliation in the Lake Chad Basin is on the way, with participants exchanging ideas on priorities to be handled, strategies to be developed, and challenges surmounted. External Relations Minister Mbela Mbela chaired the opening ceremony of the two-day conclave yesterday, May 31, 2021. Let's now talk about the management of COVID-19 in Cameroon. Mutation daily newspaper headlines, the chloroquine gate. According to Mutation newspaper, the paper is actually giving us some revelations on how the local production of chloroquine by the Institute for Medical Research aborted. This, as the Director General of this institution is awaited today at the Special Criminal Court. Catch the details of this investigation story on page 5 of Mutation newspaper. Let's have some news from the Southwest Regional Assembly. The Herald Tribune says president vice at each other's throats. According to the paper, there seems to be a cold war going on between the president of the Southwest Regional Assembly, Zaccheus Bakoma Elango, and his vice, Chief Atem Ebako, who doubles as president in the Southwest House of Chiefs. The Herald Tribune reveals that Chief Atem has of recent gone all out in the media to spill the beans about some of the lapses of the Southwest Regional Council, whose activities are yet to be felt by the population. In return, the president, Zaccheus Bakoma Elango, signed a press release stating that only him or any other authorized person by him can make public declarations about the Southwest Regional Assembly. Read more on page 3 of today's edition of the Herald Tribune. The state wants to evaluate the performances of Camwater. According to L'Economie newspaper, the recruitment procedures of the consultant who will have to carry out this duty is on the way. L'Economie in this edition looks at the problems faced by this enterprise, problems that result to frequent water shortage in the country. PRESSE, on its part, is looking at taxation and says things are moving. According to the weekly newspaper, in a circular signed recently on May 26, 2021, the Director General of Taxation cancelled the issuing of certificates of location, often required in tax files. The paper adds that the Director General of Taxation also started with the popularization of teleprocedures at the local level, with a stop last Wednesday in Soa. Again, PRESSE comes up with a state of dematerialization and securing of state revenue in the taxation sector in the country. Details of this dossier from page 6 to page 7 of PRESSE News Daily. Let's now look at the issue of fictitious civil servants in Cameroon with the weekly newspaper Terre Promise. According to Terre Promise newspaper, the phenomenon persists despite the remarkable efforts made by the government. Prove that these fictitious public agents have accomplices who plague the system from inside. Read more on pages 5, 6, 7 of today's edition of Terre Promise. Local governance. The Yaoundé 2 Council adopts its 2020 administrative accounts According to l'Elite newspaper, the paper actually points out the number of achievements carried out by the Yaoundé 2 Council in the infrastructural and social domains with an execution rate of 60%. The paper adds today that the revaluation of the 2020 budget, which stepped up from 2.1 to 2.23 billion CFA francs during the 2020 July session, justifies this level of advancement in the execution of projects carried out by the Yaoundé 2 Council. Ligne d'Horizon today looks at the dangerous link between journalists and politicians. The paper attempts an answer to the type of relationship that exists between journalists and politicians in Cameroon and how these relations affect the blooming or restriction of press freedom. Ligne d'Horizon tries to solve the problematic with the contributions of professors Laurent Charles Boyomo Asala, Charlie Gabriel Mbok, Thomas Atenga, Georges Madiba, Armand Leka Isomba, and le jour publisher Haman Mana. Let's go over to Bamenda in the southwestern region where the irate population protests alleged Amba atrocities. According to the Guardian Post news paper, the paper actually reports on the atrocities committed by the Amba fighters. The Guardian Post today reports that multitudes yesterday took the streets in Bamenda to protest what they described as growing atrocities allegedly committed by Ambazonia separatist fighters. The irate population defied regular Monday ghost towns that had been imposed by the separatist fighters to protest the separatists. They marched to the palace of the Fonofkwen in Bamenda 3 subdivision, expressing their discontent. Catch the story on today's edition of the Guardian Post newspaper. In health, let's have Eco Santé newspaper, which zooms on the issue of smoking in Cameroon and headlines close to 3,000 deaths per year, according to Eco Santé newspaper. Statistics from the Global Audit Tobacco survey revealed that 9% of the Cameroonian population aged between 15 and more, that is 13.9% of men and 4.3% of women, use tobacco. These statistics show that 36.4% of Cameroonians are passive smokers. On the occasion of World No Tobacco Day, commemorated yesterday, May 31, 2021, the Permanent Secretary of the National Committee for the Fight Against Drugs, Dr. Basile Yana, enumerates the consequences of tobacco consumption and the actions carried out by the institution to fight against tobacco. Ladies and gentlemen, that is what is making headline news this Tuesday. Hope you grab a copy or two of these newspaper. Thanks for being there. See you later tomorrow, Wednesday. Stay tuned to our program.